Hi, I'm doing the applicant, so let's start. The applicant. First, are you sort of a person? Do you wear a glass eye, false teeth, or a crutch? A brace or a hook? Rubber breasts or rubber crotch? Stitches to show something's missing? No? No? Then how can we give you a thing? Stop crying, open your hand, empty. Empty, here is a hand to fill it and willing to bring teacups and roll away headaches and do whatever you tell it. Will you marry it? It is guaranteed to thumb shut your eyes at the end and dissolve of sorrow. We make new stock from the salt. I notice you are stark naked. How about this suit? Black and stiff, but not a bad fit. Will you marry it? It is waterproof, shatterproof, proof against fire and bombs through the roof. Believe me, they'll bury you in it. Now, your head, is empty. I have the ticket for that. Come here, sweetie, out of the closet. Well, what do you think of that? Naked as a paper to start, but in 25 years she'll be silver, in 50, gold. A living doll everywhere you look. It can sew, it can cook, it can talk, talk, talk. It works. There's nothing wrong with it. You have a hole, it's a poultice. You have an eye, it's an image. My boy, it's your last resort. Will you marry it? Marry it? Marry it? Okay, so now let's start and get into it. First of all, let's talk about the title. The applicant. It's very, let me choose a color. It's very formal. Okay, so it's very formal, straight to the point, businessy somehow. I don't know. Okay. What else? I think that's it. Yeah. So let's start with the first stanza. First, you are sort of a person. So it's apparent that, like, it's a question. Okay. So from the poem, what we can get is the speaker is he's the one asking the questions, and yeah, that's it. The applicant, we do not hear of him. Okay, we don't see him talk here in the poem, throughout the poem. The only time we can it's understood that he talks is when the poem says so, like here, for example, no, no, and stuff, which you're gonna get later on, like, into it. Okay. So it's like a monologue, it's free verse. A salesperson interviews a man to buy something. We still don't know, okay? So it seems like a parody. So in the first stanza, it's an interrogation, okay? So first, are sort of a person. So here it's the speaker is implying that, he has to be a specific type of person to fit in, okay? Or to be accepted, or fit in. Okay, do you wear a glass eye, false teeth, or a crutch, a brace or a hook, rubber breasts or rubber crotch? Okay, so it's implying that, to fit in or to be part of this group or to be accepted, then you must have something wrong. Like, you must have something not real about you, right? Like, you must have altered something or something not... You cannot be your true self, right? You cannot be your original self. You have to be something else. And from the way it's written, you can tell that it's it's violent somehow, or aggressive, right? So it almost seems, it's like violent and aggressive. And there's a repetition of R, so rubber, cra, bra, ra, bray, or, okay? So this repetition of the R sound makes it seem like he's growling, so like that. So it makes it harsher, like the speaker is like defensive and harsh and quick, right? So the tone is like more of a matter of fact and sharp, as I've said. Okay. So from the first stanza, what we got is that, first of all, the speaker is a salesperson or interviewer. Okay, the second thing is that the tone is harsh. The third thing is that what's implied is that you have to lose something or to have something not entirely yourself to fit into the group, right? And you have to be a specific type of person to fit into the group. This group, we can assume that it's maybe society or yeah, I think it's society, maybe. Who knows? Now let's move on to the second stanza. Stitches to show something's missing. Yeah, whatever. So no, the applicant's answer. Then how can we give you a thing? So then it's implying that, like, he's puzzled here, right? Like, which means that there's not a lot like him, like this guy who is pure himself, like who's completely himself, and who is not putting on anything fake or anything like that, which might mean that the way he thinks or his beliefs or his morals, any of that, right? So yeah. No, then how can we give you a thing? What is a thing? It's the wife, from what we can tell later on. So he's confused, okay? So because he's his true self, because he doesn't have anything missing, so he's his true self and his complete self, right? So he's complete and he is his true self, then he's not fit to be part of society, right? How can we give you a thing? Stop crying, there's no time. We have to get to the point. Open your hand, empty. Here is the hand, okay? So he sees his hand empty, he gives him a hand, then they're joined, so this might signify marriage. To fill it, so, joined, and willing to bring teacups and roll away headaches and do whatever you tell it. The hand is objectified. Will you marry it? It's guaranteed to thumb shut your eyes at the end and dissolve of sorrow, which might mean that its life ends with the man's life, right? So here we're going to assume that it is a wife because we know already. So then it's here where it's guaranteed that the wife's life will end with her husband's, right? So we make new stock from the salt. So they make new wives from the salt, which might indicate, how widows are sorrowful, so they'll cry. So the salt from the tears, right? She'll drown in her tears and eventually come out as another wife. I notice you are stark naked, which might be his marital state. How about this suit? Black and stiff, but not a bad fit. So it's stiff, right? It's not exactly comfortable, which might mean that this is marriage, right? He's signifying marriage. It's either marriage on paper, so yeah, I think it's marriage on paper. So black and stiff, but not a bad fit. That marriage is not always comfortable, might not be comfortable, but it's not a bad fit. It's okay. You can get by. Will you marry it? It's waterproof, shatterproof, proof against fire, and all these things. So the rhythm here is the strongest throughout the whole poem. So it might show that it's tight and, it's restless. It's like, you have to give me an answer. And reassuring too, somehow. Anyway, so when you're married, you're married, right? You're married. Like, no matter what happens, you're married, right? And you'll be buried as a husband, right? Like, that's how it is. Now, your head, is empty, so he's rude. This might show that he thinks the speaker views himself as superior, right? I have a ticket for that. Wait. Come here, sweetie. This is said in a condescending way and tone, so it sets a tone. Out of the closet. Well, what do you think of that? That's a rhetoric, and it's emphasized, so it's another time objectifying the wife, okay? So this is the only time that the speaker is asking for the opinion of the applicant, and yet it's a rhetorical question, which might show that it does not care for the opinion, right? For the applicant's opinion, which is shown from when he says, your head is empty. So in a way, this might be seen as someone who not only views themselves as superior, but as the orchestrators somehow, right? As the people who rule, as a higher power, right? Which might be society. So the speaker is society as a whole, maybe. Okay, naked as a paper to start, but in 25 years she'll be in silver, right? That'll be her worth. That's the only time she's referred to, the wife is referred to as a she and not. And it makes you think, why, right? in 50 gold, a living doll. Everywhere you look, it can sew, it can cook. So this is, and again, objectifying the women. And yeah. Lack of humanity, so he's dehumanizing her here. So, and it shows that she's at his every beck and call, right? Okay, it works. There is nothing wrong with it. You have a whole, so it's here. It's trying to show that you need it, and it'll be whatever you want it to be. So the wife will be whatever you want it to be. So here it's an eye candy. Here it's, so you know how women are objectified often, and they're seen as two things, right? They're seen as objects, or just caregivers, right? So here she's a caregiver, and here she's the object. So that's the two main archetypes of women, or not archetypes, no, sorry. These are the two main ways that men objectify women, right? Through these two ways. Or they categorize women, or they see women's function as these two things, either a caregiver or an object, right? My boy, it's your last resort urgency. It's your last resort to fit in, perhaps, or to it's your last resort to fit in. Will you marry it? Marry it, marry it. It's almost by force. It's a command at the end. It's not a question mark anymore. So it's really, I don't think it's going to wait for an answer from the speaker. No, it's just going to give from the applicant. The speaker will just give the wife away, which might show that, which might reflect how society forces all men and women to marry, even if they choose not to, right? It's like it's wrong if you choose not to marry, and especially at that time, because this poem was written in the 60s. So this brings us to the end of the poem. So I just said that the poem was written in the 60s. It was written October 1962, okay? And the thing is, it was written October 1962. Sylvia Plath was married in 1956. And then she was separated from her husband. She never was divorced. She never got a divorce. The fall of 1962, and after this separation, she fell into a depressive episode where she was the most productive, actually, and she wrote this poem. So I think this is her reflecting on marriage, perhaps. Okay. So, as we said, oops, I'm dying. Okay, so the themes of this poem, oh, by the way, this is what Sylvia Plath said, okay? So the thing is, Sylvia Plath says in this poem, the speaker is an executive, a sort of exacting super salesman. He wants to be sure the applicant for his marvelous product really needs it and will treat it right. Yet, so it's funny that Sylvia Plath emphasized on like this, and this is what she says about this poem. Yet, I don't think it's ever asked in the poem how fit the applicant is for handling a woman, or for getting married or whatever. Instead, it's never asked about how it will treat it. No, it's never is. Yeah, so that's fine. So maybe this reflects the mistreatment that most women have, right? Okay. So the themes of this poem, first of all, it's marriage, definitely. So marriage and the gender roles, the stereotypes in marriage, right? And in society in general. So the applicant is masculine, and he has to be dominant, right? While the wife is feminine, so she's objectified. So because the applicant is masculine, he has the dominance, he's asked, and he's the one who takes the wife, and the wife is feminine, so she's objectified, and both have limited freedom, where first of all the applicant does not answer, no answer, and the speaker does not care for the applicant's answer or opinion or whatever. And actually it's said that, hey, I think that you're dumb, right? Which limits the freedom of both male and females, and it shows the bad treatment of both, right? Yeah. Also, that the wife is referred to as it. That's enough, right? And also, no value to applicants or the wife's voices unless they adhere to society's ideal gender roles. So here the speaker is trying to force the applicant into a set, into a mold, but the applicant is refusing. Not the applicant's refusing necessarily, but the applicant doesn't quite fit, yet the speaker is trying, right? So it also might speak on consumerism as the urgency. You can see the urgency in the tone throughout, and the flaws. It points out the flaws, like here empty, and here it says it's dumb, and here empty hand, and also how the salesman the speaker presents the product, right? So he presents the project as something revolutionary that will change his life for the better forever too. So yeah, the speaker points out the applicant's flaws. Anyways, this is it for today. I think we're done. Yes, it was a monologue, free verse. Okay, so this is it for today. I love the applicant. I'm really sleepy. I want to go to sleep. Oh God, Lady Lazarus is long. Oh my Lord. Okay, bye. I'm gonna go sleep or something.